What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. You can email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us, 865-658-5824. Flying solo as of right now this morning as we get ready and geared up for the matchup tomorrow between the Green Bay Packers and the Jacksonville Jaguars. We're going to cover a lot of information this morning. Got some great chatter here in the comments section as well. We're going to hit on a few of those. So I'll do my best to keep up with it. Like you guys always hear me say, when we're flying solo, it's a little more difficult to keep up with the chat, just so there's no dead air for those who are listening on the podcast. But first things first. So let's go to the chat real quick. You guys would confirm that you can hear me okay. Usually I have the guys do that. So make sure that I don't see anybody saying, Clayton, you knucklehead, you're muted. So we should be good. Let's go to the chat. Let's see. Jarrell Lee, obviously become a member here of the PTA Posse on YouTube. Appreciate you, Jarrell. Thanks for hanging out this morning. Super chat from Jarrell. Eric, tackle for loss screen was amazing. Quay don't make that. He's talking about the Eric Wilson diagnosing the screen pass. And it took me a minute, Jarrell, because it happened so early in the game. Like I think it was in the first half, right before halftime, actually, as you're closing in on the middle eight. It was a hell of a play. And I actually pulled it up here. Like I said, it took me a second. I thought you were talking about the sweep play that they ran, right, where it was actually Edgerrin Cooper that blew up the lead blocker. I thought you were referring to that at first. And then when I come back through, I'm like, oh, that's right. He did diagnose a screen pass. So we got it for you right here. This came second quarter, 5:24 left. It was a 2nd and 10 play at Green Bay's 32-yard line. So they were marching here. It ends up being a 2-yard loss. We're in a nickel 4-2-5 here. You can see if I can get my cursor on the screen here. So there's your 4-down lineman, your 2 linebackers here, right? And Eric Wilson, let's see if we can identify exactly what position he's playing. You're tied in, you're strong right here. So that would make him the weak side backer with 2 backers on the field. So he's actually playing will backer. And this play is really cool because they're going to run kind of a cross screen. You know, typically screens like slip screens, you'll have these guys jump out here on the running back side. He is T weak or T left. Instead, they're gonna wait and he's gonna cut across the quarterback on a screen on this side. It's a tough play to defend. It really is. But I want you to key in on Eric Wilson. They're gonna do a little bit of motion and go to a Trey Wright look, which is kind of a bunch Trey Wright. So right here, everything's looking like it's setting up as a pass, right? And you see Eric Wilson's kind of fading back in his zone. And to me, this looked like it was probably cover 2. It could have been cover 6, and they might have been disguising it a touch. But if you'll notice Eric Wilson right there, no hesitation. I mean, we'll try to put it on loop here a little bit for you guys and gals. Look at that. Just as soon as he sees, he's reading the offensive line. As soon as he sees 70 come out, it's game on, baby. And again, he's supposed to be in a drop zone there. There's no match principles to what he's running there, I don't believe. To me, it looks like a cover 2, maybe a cover 2 sink. The way Ja plays a little deeper up top could have been cover 6, like they might have been playing quarter up there and half at the bottom. But nonetheless, when they go to that Trey Wright, you see Eric Wilson just waste no time. And again, not only does he have the awareness to diagnose the play, but he also has the ability to burst, to get in the backfield, beat the blockers. You know, see, yeah, right here, it's normal for a linebacker to read a screen pass, right? 70 knows he's probably going to read it. I just got to get out here and get my spot. It's too late. He already shot his shot, and it's game over, man. Just a beautiful job there by Eric Wilson. Fired up, him and Rashawn Gary celebrating together. Now, if we go to the end zone cam, we get a little bit better view of what he's seeing in the backfield. So you see he kind of creeps over because you're now to that Trey Wright. If he is in that hook curl, right, if he's in that hook curl responsibility, what he's trying to do is cheat over just a half a step. He knows that 20. He knows Bullard's got his back on the right side, right? He's protected on the right side with that, it's probably considered the boundary X player, right? He knows he's got some extra protection over there. The thing that you notice about Eric Wilson is he's always one step ahead. Like there's never a moment where it's like, last second he's trying to diagnose it, right? Reads it immediately. Okay, with the motion, I'm going to cheat to that side. Just so happens that's going to be the screen side. Again, perfect read there on number 70 coming out, and just a great finish on that tackle, man. What a phenomenal job. Just bang. Watch his head snap back. Watch the running back's head. That's a big boy hit right there. And you know Mixon is pissed off. He had no shot of turning that into anything, and it's all because one player, one defender, and Eric Wilson just reads and reacts. No hesitation, bang. Great play. So I'm glad you brought that up, Jarrell. Now, to your comment about Quay, I agree. Listen, Quay is a physical specimen, right? There's no two ways about that. Quay is one of the most physical linebackers in the game of football. The problem is with Quay, to me, it just seems like he's always a half a step late. And it's not because he doesn't have the quickness or the burst. He's a half a step late because he's a little bit slower in diagnosing the play. If that makes sense. So that's the big thing that sticks out to me about Quay. And, as much as I want Quay to pan out and I want him to turn it around, and I have faith he will. Like I said, he's got all the physical tools, and I think seeing Edgerrin raise his game as a rookie, seeing Eric Wilson come in off the bench and play at such a high level, I think a rising tide raises all ships. I think that you will see Quay Walker start to raise his game a little bit, but I can't disagree with you, man, on that. Eric definitely diagnosed that better than what I think we would see Quay do it, and hopefully Quay will surpass him in that regard, right? Jarrell with another super chat. Evan Williams breaks down like Atari Bigby. Man, there's been so many different comparisons to Eric or Evan Williams. I keep saying Eric Wilson. Evan Williams. I've heard people say he reminds them of Micah Hyde. I've heard some people say he reminds you of Nick Collins, and now we're hearing Atari Bigby. Give me the best of all those guys. Like, give me Nick Collins' ability or physical tools to get to the point of attack when he needs to, whether it's against the run or the pass. Give me Atari Bigby's thump that he brings, right? Like you said, the way he breaks down and tackles. As I think about it here, Atari Bigby breaking down and tackling, especially when he would play Buzz or he would play Robber, I can see the comparison there. And again, Atari Bigby, it was rare that Atari Bigby missed a tackle. He was a fun player to watch. We got Tim joining us here now from Green Bay. Tim, man, do you remember the Atari Bigby days? Were you you wasn't a Packer fan back then, were you?
Yes, I was. You know that, man. Of course. And I remember the Nick Collins days too. Of course.
Yeah.
I will say this though. Evan Williams is Evan Williams. Well, that's who he reminds me of. He reminds me of Evan Williams. It's easy to make those comparisons because we love to do that. We do that with our quarterbacks too, right? We compare them to our former greats. But Evan Williams is a beast, and he came in this league ready to play. So I'm gonna call him a one of one. He is him, as they say.
I'll tell you the grades he's putting up right now, man. He's the highest graded rookie in the league as it sits right now. So, and you can go, well, that's just PFF, and I completely understand that standpoint. But when you turn on the tape, I can't think of one time this year where I go, oh, Evan, what are you doing? Not one. He's just been solid, been consistent. And that's the big thing about PFF is, you can have, I think I heard Bulaga talking about this the other day, and more specifically with the offensive lineman, you can have, and thank you for the super chat there, Drew. You can have a great game and only screw up 2 or 3 plays, and that's what the fans will remember, right? PFF is very similar. It only takes 1 or 2 mistakes to drop that grade down significantly. I personally like that because you're striving for perfection, right? I would much rather grade it that way than some people who turn on the tape and there's just never anything negative to say, right? Like that's living in fairy tale world. That's what that is. Like you're the land of make believe, as the meme says. So I like to try to find the things that are wrong and not to harp on them as a negative, but to try to understand, okay, here's what needs to go different in that regard. So let's see who else in the chat. Nick McSwain says, really hope the Packers can play their most mistake-free game tomorrow and can carry that over to next week. Going to need to be as close to perfect as possible to beat the Lions. See, Nick, we're talking about the Lions, right? Talking about the Lions. Got to get past these Jaguars, man. I'm just telling you. I know what the numbers suggest. I know we're 4-point favorites, but you got to put all of your energy, all your focus into not allowing Doug Peterson to jump out to a lead. Everybody likes to dog on Doug Peterson, and he's just, he should be fired already, and I got you. And I know this isn't your opinion, Nick. I'm just kind of thinking out loud here. But this is a guy that won a Super Bowl with Nick Foles. Nick Foles, right? Nick Foles is his quarterback. Yeah. I couldn't remember. I always get him and Nick Folk mixed up. So Nick Foles as his quarterback. You're not going to convince me he's a bad football coach, right? And again, Nick McSwain
got there with Carson Wentz, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, and then Carson Wentz never did a damn thing since. took that money and ran. They ran Nick Foles out of town because Carson Wentz got the contract, and then you're looking up and woo-wee.
Yep.
Hold on tight. Doug Peterson has a statue in front of the stadium, and they ran him out like it felt like it was 10 minutes after he won the Super Bowl.
Hey man, that's Philly. That's Philly for you.
That is Philly. You're right. So again, though, I understand what you're saying there. You're going to have to be as close to perfect to beat the Lions. It's true, but the Lions, look at it from the Lions' perspective too. When we face them here in a couple of weeks, they got to be looking at Green Bay, going, boys, we're going to have to play 60 minutes of football because these guys are not going to stop. They're going to battle to the very end. And look, I was not rooting for Aiden Hutchinson's injury. I will never do that. I don't care how much I dislike a team, how much they're a rival. But Aiden Hutchinson, man, is a dog. And the fact that he's not going to be on that field, he is a field-tilting player. There is no two ways about it. So the Lions are obviously going to continue to try to put that pass rush together without him, and they got a solid defense even without him. But that's something that's going in the Packers' favor there too. But again, you just got to go in prepared. Look at the last 4 game saturation. Look at your last 2 head-to-heads. All right, here's how they like to attack the defenses. The people that acted like Jared Goff was just a bad football player and, oh, he's getting lucky and this will never last, they're awfully quiet this year because that dude is balling out. And, and what I love about Coach Half, as Tim flashed a picture up here, Tim, you got to make them play left-handed, man. We're going to talk a little bit about that today too.
Nice.
So Ron Samble, it would be nice to get a lead and have a relaxing game after last week. I'm totally the opposite, guys. Like, it is nice to put the pin down when you're charting the game in the second half because you already know, okay, here's how the game unfolded, and you can kind of kick back, get a daddy soda, and enjoy a blowout. But man, I love those top race games too. If you're fanning stressed out, you're fanning wrong. I'll just say that. There's a lot of people that it doesn't. I mean, even with the wins, they're still pissed off. Like, man, put that down. Have a good time. Like, and again, you can get lost in the what happened and why did it happen, as opposed to, well, this sucks that happened, right? Like, learn along the way and completely understand exactly what made the score, end up the way it was. But yeah, just got to relax a little bit, like these two guys, man. Learn how to relax. So, I understand what you're saying, though, Ron. Nick McSwain, almost every Jaguars loss has been close. Feel like they're better than their record shows. And Nick, I kind of feel like that about every team in the NFL. You guys hear me say it all the time, right? The difference between the worst team in the league and the best team in the league is way closer than fans want to realize. That's why you look up sometimes and go, how did they get beat by them? That's why I'm not big into like DVOA and stuff too, because some of the stuff that comes into factor at different points of the seasons, like that is not how coaching staffs look at it. And the other thing, Tim, like you hear people harp on coaches that are like, of course the coach is going to say they're a good team, and of course the coaches. No, they believe that. There's not a coaching staff in the league. There may have been in the past, and that's why they're not in the league, that would go into any game plan, sit down with their coaches and go, these guys are garbage. We should blow them out. That is not how that operates, man.
They don't even, that's like high school type stuff. And even high school staffs probably don't even run their squads that way.
Yep. Which, by the way, man, Friday Night Lights last night was absolutely awesome.
I see your boy had 2 tutters.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, man. It was a local broadcast game. It was the game of the week, Battle of Hawkins County, and man, he balled out, and it was just it was really cool seeing him hoist that trophy at the end. Both trophies, they give a trophy out for Friday Night Rivals, whoever wins that game, and then of course you had the rivalry trophy as well. And hopefully everybody was safe last night. The kids were heading to a huge bonfire immediately following the game. So you know how it is. I grew up in the 90s, so when I hear bonfire and things like that, I immediately think of how we acted. And I'm hoping these kids are a little different nowadays. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just go watch Varsity Blues.
Exactly.
That was us.
I knew you were going to say that.
That was us. So anyway, and hopefully none of those kids are watching and go, oh, we should try that. No, you should not. No, you should not.
I don't want your life.
And we're not talking about the bad acting either. We're just talking about the shenanigans that happen at the high school level.
Bad acting? What do you mean? That everyone should have got an Oscar for that movie, man. The acting was spot on.
I love it. I could watch it over and over and over, man. It's a good flick for sure. All right, let's see where we need to switch gears to. Yeah, let's talk a little power rankings. I don't do this often. Let me make sure we didn't miss anything in the chat. I think we're good there. Okay. If you catch me missing a super chat or something, Tim, you just fire it up on the screen. Here's the thing, too, Tim. If you've got a comment that kind of applies to what we're talking about at the moment, and I know you usually typically just star them, throw them up on the screen. We'll talk about them as we go. You know what I mean? That type of thing. Because there's been many times I've looked back and been like, crap, I should have read that. But I know you guys don't want to interrupt me. I'm a knucklehead. You're going to have to interrupt me. So I usually don't get into power. Are you big into power rankings, Tim?
We kind of talked about this the other day. Yeah and no. They're fun to look at. I'm not, because here's the thing.
They're fun to look at. Just
33rd teams power rankings would be interesting. But you look at, I don't want to bash all the networks, but you guys know what I mean. You'll see the Fox Sports polls. You'll see the Sunday Night Football's power rankings. Those are pretty interesting. Of course, you've got what do we have? We've got Florio's deal. They do rankings, right? Pro Football Talk. You've got PFF. You've got 30. I mean, so if you look at them as a collective, it's interesting. It's kind of a cool way to like follow along and see what the scuttlebutt in the league is. But I don't put a lot of stake in them because they change so quickly. You see the teams move up and down the list. Some lists don't change as quickly as other ones do. But I think if we're going to look at one, it's the 33rd team would be probably my first one I'd go to.
Yeah. So this is from the 33rd team. And listen, I'm not a huge power rankings guy. But what I do appreciate about it is it kind of keeps your finger on the pulse of at least where the media sees, these teams ranking. And you can start the season and the Packers are ranked 12th, and then you get to week 7, week 8, and all of a sudden you look up and they're in the top 10 or the top 5 or maybe the top 3. Just kind of let you know, all right, there's a little more buzz around the team than you might expect. But this is Marcus Mosher, NFL analyst from 33rd team, that put this out. So he's got the Kansas City Chiefs at number 1. No surprise there. They are now 6-0. Number 2, they get the Detroit Lions at 5-1. Their previous power ranking was 5th. So they jumped from 5th to number 2. There you go. Number 3, the Baltimore Ravens. They were at 3 last week. They stay at 3 this week. Number 4, the Minnesota Vikings actually dropped down 2 spots. So they're in the 4 spot. They went from 2 to 4 this week. And then in the 5th spot, I love that they highlighted Tucker Kraft here too after the diving catch. The number 5 spot, you've got the Green Bay Packers. All right, it says power ranking last week was not, so they jumped 4 spots from 9 to 5. Absolutely awesome. It says the Green Bay Packers were dominant on defense in week 7, and that's a great sign for their long-term outlook. C.J. Stroud had just 86 passing yards and was pressured all game long. But I was told we didn't have a pressure. I was told all these defenders suck, Tim. What's going on here?
They got to update our record, too. What's up with that? We're 5-2.
Hey, listen, Tim, don't let that bother you, man. Let them think.
Man, a win's a win. We earned that win. we held C.J. Stroud under 90 yards.
Actually, as I'm looking at it, I'm glad you said that. What's the date on this? Have they not done one this? This is the 22nd. So yeah. This was earlier in the week, then, Tim. So this was the power rankings going into this week. So if you look at it, 4-2, the Vikings at 5-1. They're going to drop. There's no two ways about it, right? Yeah. So they're going to drop. If we win this week, the Baltimore Ravens won and the Detroit Lions won, Kansas City Chiefs won. Yeah, what's going to probably happen is the Vikings are going to drop out of the top 5 and the Packers will climb into their spot. So I would imagine if this week goes as we anticipate, it would be Chiefs 1, Lions 2, Baltimore 3, Packers 4, and then the Vikings 5th, maybe even 6th, depending on what Buffalo does. So good catch there, Tim, with the record. Again, this did drop on the 22nd. So, obviously they haven't updated the records yet. So hopefully we'll get that out soon. See, the 22nd was what day last week? That was 4 days ago. So that would have been what, Monday Tuesday-ish?
Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
Here, I can tell you. So
nonetheless, the Packers, the whole point was
22nd.
Yeah. Prince says, I was told we were 5-2. Let's see Mike Berry in the chat. Second cup of diesel and second slab of cornbread. Boy, cornbread.
Wow.
Taking me back to my roots, dude. Ooh, the cornbread. The
Oh,
cornbread back home is nothing to mess with, man. Let me tell you. Cardiac
that by the
arrest.
pan, man.
I'm telling you.
My wife makes me my own pan when she makes it because she
Right.
knows it's going to be gone.
All right, so there's, like I said, just kind of keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on around the league as far as the top five. Kind of look at this as like the top 25 poll in college football, that type of thing. I could care less about outside of the top 10, but once you get to the top 10, that's kind of what I key in on when it comes to the power rankings, and just keep your eye on that. So really exciting stuff there. Now, as far as the Packers, obviously we mentioned yesterday, going to be doing the 1950s throwback for the game against the Lions on the 3rd, and got plenty of time, guys. Go out, get you one of those throwback jerseys, get you that, some kind of throwback design. I'm kind of wearing one here, as you can see. We got the 1950s logo. I got the Mitchell and Ness over there too. That's got the patch. There's nothing better than the throwbacks, no doubt about it. Tim, you're going to be in the house for this one, right?
I will be there. You know what would be cool too, man? Detroit used to have a throwback that style. You remember? Detroit had a all silver helmet, and they had blue jersey, solid silver pants. That was back. God, they wore that back when Barry Sanders was still running the ball for them. I think
I can see it as you're describing it. I can see the uniform. I know exactly.
That would be kind of cool if they both teams went that route. But I believe the home team has the choice as to what the uniform situation is. So I'm sure we'll just see Detroit in their road unis. But yeah, I'm excited. Always a good vibe during the throwback game. And like I said, the 50s were kind of the dark era for the Packers, the dark era before the dark era of my childhood, the 1980s. But it'll be fun to see the old schools out there for sure. I know the players love it. They get tuned up for that all the time. So it'll be fun to see.
Yeah, there you go. And everybody, Blake B in the chat says, I have a single ticket available for the Detroit game, closed seats. I may not be associated with Ticket King, which is the official ticket provider of Packer Fan Total Access Live, but I'd be willing to sell it to a posse member at a discount. So everybody reach out to Blake B. Blake, give you an email or something in the chat so everybody knows where to find you, maybe here on X as well. So appreciate you, buddy. Get rid of that ticket and get it. Make sure you get it into the hands of a Packer fan. That's the main thing, man. The other thing too, man, I thought this was cool. Andrew Brandt, who used to work for the Packers, obviously, he still talks about the Packers a lot. He did a lot of the negotiating during the Aaron Rodgers era, actually the end of the Brett Favre era into the Aaron Rodgers era there in Green Bay. He's kind of seen both sides. He's been an agent. He's worked for an agency. He's also worked for a team, obviously being the NFL. Now he teaches the business of sports is kind of his forte. He quote tweeted a tweet that said, general parking at the Intuit Dome is $70. All right. So the Intuit Dome, for those of you who don't know, I think that's where the LA Clippers play. All right. So when you go to their event, it costs $70 for general parking. I love that Andrew Brandt quote tweeted it and said, I parked in a homeowner's driveway a block from Lambeau Field on Sunday for $20. So isn't it funny how we always get heckled by fans outside of the fan base about, well, they need an owner. That's what's holding them back and this and that. And it's just small town America. It's like, we don't need all that big city living. We got this under control. Everybody shut up, right?
That's what's holding us back, and our 13 championships,
As always, too, it's funny how every, like when you take an organization and I don't think this is political, get the government the hell out of the way, both local, federal, we as United States citizens can be responsible enough to take care of each other. There's things that the government, I got you, man. You got to have it. I understand. But in a situation like this, well, we got to have this parking lot. We got to build this huge parking structure. We got to dump all this money. Oh, by the way, we're going to make the taxpayers pay for it, right? All these things. And then at the end of the day, the Packers are just like, you can park in my front yard. It's all good. That's how you handle problems, people. Again, I know it's deeper than that. I'm being a little bit we'll get away from it. It's all right. I thought it was cool that Andrew Brandt pointed that out, though. Paid $20 to park in somebody's.
You might have parked the same place I parked last time I went there. There's a lovely little neighborhood over by Crow's West, and that's the that's the spot, man. $20 parking.
Heck yeah.
Don't get me wrong. There's a few $40 and $50 spots on some of those driveways too. Like you
Oh
said,
yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
Free market capitalism at its finest. I love it. Get your paper.
Yep, and get closer to the stadium if you want to.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. That's anywhere you go, right? You want premium parking, you want to be close, you're going to pay a little more. But it is awesome to go to Lambeau and get spoiled with free street parking and cheap parking on people's driveways. You got to love it. Or right on their front lawn, It's always just a driveway. They'll let you park right up on their porch.
I loved it, man. The first time I went, I won't tell the story again. I won't bore y'all with it. But now we're blessed enough to go to Packer games a little bit different. And we Uber everywhere. It's awesome. We fly into town, Uber to the hotel, walk to Lambeau, Uber around town when we go to dinner downtown at like the Walnut Room and the Republic Chop House, all that stuff. But it's I just love Green Bay, Wisconsin, man. It's a magical place, no doubt about it. All right, Josh Jacobs. This is cool. PFF tweeted this out. Not PFF Packers, but PFF put this out. Catch them if you can. Most missed tackles forced on both runs and receptions combined across the entire league. James Conner 1, Najee Harris 2, Jordan Mason 3, Kenneth Walker 4, Bijan Robinson 5, 5, and actually tied for Bijan Robinson is Josh Jacobs with 29 missed tackles forced, both runs and receptions combined. Listen, there's some people that are saying Josh Jacobs isn't worth the money. I could not disagree more. This dude, the way he runs his running style, I think it's fit for the winter too. Like when you see him run on Sunday, he is shifty. He's got that hop step. There's so much he can do with the football in his hands. Obviously, he got his first receiving touchdown here with Green Bay, which is absolutely awesome. But the big thing with Josh Jacobs is he runs with heavy feet, in my opinion, and that's not a negative. Like when you see him run, he kind of stomps a little bit when he runs. I think when the snow starts flying here and the weather turns and you get some of these weather games, some of these other quicker backs are going to struggle to keep their footing, especially when they're on the road in Green Bay. Yeah. I think Josh Jacobs is going to be it's like this. Tim, you get that little dusting out there, right? A front-wheel drive, it'll do the trick, right? Yep. The old Mustang, I've had a couple Mustangs in my life. That was like my favorite car. That was, the poor man's luxury sports car there, if you will.
The old Mustang, yeah.
Exactly. You don't want to get that thing out in the snow, right? There's a lot of running backs in the league that kind of run that way. Josh Jacobs, though, man, throw that Dodge Ram in the four-wheel drive. Yeah. Let's go, right? That's what
I was going to say. Josh Jacobs is a all-wheel drive, not a rear-wheel drive for sure. Yeah. And I know what you mean about that heavy feet and saying that in a positive way. That's where he gets a lot of that jump cutting from. You see him, it's like he's quick. He's got the quick twitch. He knows how to find the seam, but he doesn't waste any motion back there in the backfield. And one thing that doesn't get talked about enough with Josh Jacobs is his absolute patience as a ball carrier. Yeah. He will let that play develop, give that line time to make a block. And if it's not there, then, hey, he gets creative. He'll do what he's got to do. You notice that there are times when you've seen him stopped, and maybe it's a yard or a yard and a half gain. It's very rarely tackle for a loss. It's very rarely him getting blown up in the backfield, even on a play that may have broken down at the line of scrimmage. So he's fun to watch. And, we talked about that with A.J. Dillon for a number of years, right? Oh, it plays his best ball in December and January. It's cold. There's snow on the ground. Well, that's Josh Jacobs too. The guy's durable, versatile. And I got to believe that our boy 31, Emmanuel Wilson, is learning a lot from playing behind a veteran back like this. And I'm sure we'll have a good tandem here once the snow starts flying up at 1265. Hopefully Marshawn Lloyd getting added back to the mix as well too. But yeah, man, this is great to see him on this list. He's a rough and tumble back, but also very elusive. I think he's kind of the best of both worlds.
Yeah. Milltown Corey says, Josh Jacobs isn't even completely familiar with the Packers playbook. I can't wait for another 4 weeks when he gets completely comfortable in the Packers system. It's a great point, man. It's a really good point. And you see he was making mistakes in the first few games of the season to the point that LaFleur would pull him out when he would miss a blocking assignment and stuff. So as he gets more comfortable with that, you'll probably see him stay in the game even more. But I'm with you, man. I think he's only going to get better as time goes on for sure. And as much as listen, I have led the charge with how the hell is this guy averaging 6 yards a carry and only getting 12 carries this last game? at the same time, the positive side of that, you're keeping him fresh, man. You're making sure he doesn't get banged up. When this weather does turn here next month, I imagine probably mid to late November, you're going to see the weather really start to turn in Green Bay. And when it does, don't be surprised if all of a sudden that guy's up to 20, 23 carries a game, right? So maybe that's all part of the plan there for sure.
No block, no rock.
All good in the chat. Jacobs should be like Edgar Bennett. I could kind of see that comparison there. I almost wanted to say like Dorsey Levens, but I feel like he's definitely closer to Edgar Bennett than Dorsey Levens.
Why don't you just name a bunch of my favorite Packer running backs of all time? All we need now is Amon Green on the list.
If I remember correctly too, Tim, didn't Dorsey was more of like a fullback early? They ran a split back, right? The split backfield. He was kind of the bigger back. Yep. I want to say he came into the league as a fullback, trimmed down a little bit. All I could think of is on that Super Bowl run, do you remember the catch he made in the corner of the end zone, Dorsey Levens? I mean, just 2 feet in, getting annihilated out of bounds. Just that the dude could do it all. He really could, man.
Yeah, he was a bigger back, but man, I wonder what the heck his RAS would have been if they were doing RAS back then. I mean, just a freak. He was fun to watch. He really was.
Yeah, and
he was kind of the answer for the William Henderson kind of departure. Yeah.
Eric Edgar Bennett here, as All Good says in the chat too. Edgar Bennett, man, was a solid. You're talking about a smart football player. That dude was such a smart football player.
He helped make that Brett Favre led offenses that much more deadly. Because you had Brett Favre throwing laser beams all day, and then you could hand that ball off to Edgar Bennett, and he would just plow through. It's great.
Definitely. 2-0 for this in the chat says that's what made Le'Veon Bell good, just standing there and waiting for the play to develop. Man, his patience was unbelievable. He would literally stop. There was times you'd see him stop for a second and a half, completely stop his feet, and then bang, he was gone.
That's how good he was, because normally you're dead meat if you stop your feet in the backfield.
Absolutely. And it's such a shame, too, because he decided he was going to sit out that year, and then he wanted to pursue a rap career. And the next thing you know, it's like it just goes to show you can be a great football player. And if you lose that momentum while you're kind of in your prime in your career, if you take a year and do some knucklehead stuff, man, it'll completely shut your career down. There's no two ways about it. There you go, Milltown Corey. James Stark's a true mutter. His father was a mutter. His mother was a mutter. He was a mutter. Let me tell you, James Starks, man, I remember that year. Ryan Grant goes down, and it's, oh, crap, who's this kid from Buffalo? Man, he's awful tall to be a running back. And I know Emilio's a big fan because Emilio went to Buffalo. But, James Starks, he was just what the doctor ordered for that Super Bowl run, wasn't he?
Oh, man, he came on so fast and so strong, right? And, definitely was I don't think it's a lot of credit for that Super Bowl run, but James Starks was a huge piece in that Packer offense. I mean, we talk about Aaron and the weapons that he had. James Starks, man. I mean, we could go down a rabbit hole there and watch some highlights. Number 44 carrying the ball for us, and a massive threat in the pass game in his own right too. He would catch those swing passes and those screens and create downfield. So great memories there, man. Shout out to James Starks.
Yeah, definitely. Milltown Corey says, don't forget to hit the thumbs up, even if you're a Packers hater. We appreciate that, Corey. If you guys would take a quick second, hit that like button. Let's get that algae crank through the roof as we approach game day. We'll be going live again this evening, talking more Packers Jaguars as we get closer to kickoff. Of course, tomorrow we'll be doing
that ain't no problem.
Tomorrow we'll be doing a pregame show, and we'll be doing the postgame show. Man, I'm loving these 12 noon Central kickoffs. They are absolutely awesome. And then we get to kick back. What did we determine yesterday, Tim? We get to kick back after that. And for the 4 o'clock window, we get to watch the Bears and the Commanders kick off there at 3:25 Central. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
The Bears still suck.
That's a true story, too, by the way. I don't care what the record says. They're always going to suck in my heart.
That's right. They could be 17-0. They're still going to suck.
All right, shifting gears here. NFL Network tweeted this out. The most yak/reception for the 2024 season thus far, that belongs to Tucker Kraft. So Tucker Kraft is leading the entire National Football League in yak. I think it's yak per reception, okay? Wide receivers and tight ends, 2024 per Next Gen Stats. Tucker Kraft leads the entire National Football League at 9.9 yak per reception. All right. Second is Rashee Rice with the Chiefs at 8.3. And then, oh, by the way, in third place, Jayden Reed at 8.2. They're ahead of Khalil Shakir, wide receiver Deebo Samuel, and wide receiver Jamar Chase. I don't think people realize, and again, minimum, this isn't a small sample size, minimum of 20 receptions. I don't think people realize just how damn good Tucker Kraft is. And again, you look at the PFF grades, and they're important. They're important to take those into account too. You guys know it hasn't made chalk talk, but I've talked about how on tape I've seen him do some stuff, and it's like, Tucker, bub, we're running the ball. Why are you 6 yards down the field trying to block somebody out of we're passing the ball. Why are you 6 yards down the field trying to run block someone out of bounds, right? There's things like that on tape that's probably hurting his consistency, according to PFF. But man, when you need a play and you need some yak, I don't care if it's that quick shoot route, that flat route, or if it's the one we seen going down the seam when Jordan changed at the line of scrimmage in that tray set and just hammered that skinny post. That diving catch, Tim, that's not normal, man. That is not normal.
No, and I've watched that play probably 50 times. I'm sure you've watched it 100 times. Oh, yeah. And I see exactly what Jordan was talking about, how he wanted that ball on more of a flat trajectory than it was. Because if he did hit that throw like Jordan wanted to, Tucker probably wouldn't have dove. It probably would have hit him right on the numbers and stride for the tutter. But that's just, that's a guy making a play for his team, right? You want to see that. You want to see your tight end and your receivers willing to lay it out and make that diving grab. A lot of goofy things go wrong sometimes when you lay out like that for a football. You can pop a shoulder, things can go crazy. So guys are hesitant to do it sometimes. But you see Tuck Norris, man, he don't care. He's going where that ball is. He probably saw it too. He's coming on his route and he sees the ball out and he's probably going, uh-oh. That one's going a little further out. I'm gonna have to get out here for it, and he did. And it was a great play, right? I mean, this guy is just like I said, he's the Swiss Army knife of our offense. What do you need? You want yak? He'll give you yak. You want run blocking? He'll give you run blocking. You want him to run over, flex under center, and get you a yard on a 3rd and 1? He'll do it. I love it. I'm waiting to see if they let him throw the ball. You never know.
Right. Hey, you're right, man. You never know. He's kind of done it all up to this point, man. I can't wait to see that tush push again.
Yep.
The cheese squeeze, whatever you want to call it. I don't know what you want to call that. We'll call it that too. This is pretty cool. I was coming through because I was trying to find a still grab of him making that catch down the seam. I can't find it. But a friend of the show here, Anthony, you can follow him at Ampherney, ANFERRNEY. I believe that's right. It's a little screen grab's a little wonky, but this cracked me up. He said, I love that Tucker Kraft got drafted and went from farm boy to yak god in 16 months. Look at this difference, Tim. Look at this guy battle tested over here on the right. For those of you on the pod, the one on the left looks like an accountant, right? Clean shaven, no facial hair, no paint on the face. The hair kind of looked like it's like a photo shoot. The hair's blowing in the wind. There's no tats on his arms. And then you go to the one on the right. And this dude looks like Braveheart or something. The hair is just completely messed up. This is mid-game. Got the war paint on. Got a full beard. Tats all over the arms. Love it. And I love that he's outspoken about his faith too. Dude's definitely a man of God. And looking, he talked about last year. God, what was it he talked about? Our boy Josiah DeGuara. Everybody was picking on Josiah DeGuara. And listen, rightfully so from a football standpoint. The guy was just not playing well. But the thing that stood out was Tucker Kraft actually talked about how important he was to the locker room and talked about how he was holding Bible studies and all that. Like, it's just cool that Tucker Kraft as a young man's acknowledging what's really important in life. And again, man, this shot right here by Anthony is just unbelievable, man. Let's see. We actually got that touchdown too, as I was combing through, just searching Tucker Kraft, looking for that screen grab. Obviously, we didn't find the screen grab, but we do got this, Tim. We'll hit on real quick. So shout out to IKE Packers Podcast. And they actually had tagged, go give Cincy Fan 16 a follow on X, right? At Cincy, CINCIFAN 16. Here's a shot of that touchdown from the crowd. Let's check it out.
Come on, Tucker. Where you at, Tuck?
I love how he called it.
He called it out, didn't he? Sorry if there's language.
We're going to 85. We're going to 85. We're going 85! Let's go!
How awesome is that, bro? We got to give that a quote tweet. Let's get that a quote tweet right live on air too. This has never happened. This is a PTA exclusive here. All right.
I love it. Yeah, and shout out to Cincy fan who posted it, right? And let's all be clear, he's a Packer fan from Cincy, right? It's not he's not a Bengals fan. Don't worry.
Exactly. Everybody go give him a follow, man. That's awesome. Dude, I love his fan base so much, man. It is so cool. All right. Let's see. So again, just coming through the Twitterverse, we stumbled across that. The other person that kind of got buried there in that whole conversation, Jayden Reed, man, 8.2. Jayden's very similar to Tucker. Listen, are two young players here lately. I don't want to say that Jayden's been struggling, but Tim, we just got to get him off that punt team, man. This reeks of Amari Rodgers, right? Like Amari Rodgers, I'm not saying he was going to be a great football player, but momentum is a real thing in the league. Confidence is a real thing, and he never had a shot to create any of that because they kept putting him back there on that damn punt return, and anybody with two eyes could see he is not comfortable doing that, at least at this level. Maybe he was a dog in college. It's a different animal here in the NFL. I want to see Jayden Reed completely stay away from that completely. Yep. Keyshawn needs to be the return guy, both punt and kick return. We need to tighten that unit up, obviously, and let Keyshawn know, listen, bub, stop being so aggressive. You got to call that fair catch earlier, or else we probably end up beating Houston by a couple scores if we don't give up that ball there on that muff punt, right? And I know some people blame Corey Ballantyne. Some people blame Keyshawn Nixon. I blame them both, right? Yep. And I blame Bisaccia too. Like, you got to, as a unit, you got to take those L's together, right? But, man, Jayden Reed, just let him do his thing as a wide receiver because he is absolutely awesome. 8.2 yak yards per reception, third in the league, ahead of Deebo Samuel and Jamar Chase, two of the top premier wide receivers.
Yep. And you talk about we talked about the Amari Rodgers factor, right? The comparison. Well, that's the thing Amari Rodgers didn't have. He wasn't a massive threat in the pass game. He wasn't a huge weapon for us offensively. So I think, that experiment with him was just trying to get him on the field, trying to get your draft pick out there. And, Jayden Reed is the opposite. Jayden Reed is, quite arguably the biggest threat in our offense in the pass game. Clearly he's valuable there. And I believe too, like you said, Keyshawn should be the return guy. He's earning his check right now. Don't get me wrong, but we're paying him a lot of money. And I don't think it's too much to ask him to return punts in addition to kicks. And let's be honest, most of the kicks are touchbacks anyways nowadays. Mm-hmm. You're not doing a lot of returning anyway. So if we need you out there on a punt, I think you should be. And I think the other guy back there maybe should be Bo Melton. If you're looking to add somebody else, I could see Bo Melton maybe returning punts as well. But what do I know? I'm a podcaster, not a coach. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, man, I'm with you, dude. I think Jayden Reed should just fly around like a bird on offense. I'd be happy with that. Let's get him out of the return game.
Yeah, definitely, man. Just let him focus on rounding out that game. Listen, he was on pace early in the year to be one of the best wide receivers in the league, and all of a sudden you start putting him back on punt return. And listen, that may not have anything to do with his struggles here lately. And I say struggles, it's not like he's playing bad football. It's just you haven't seen him blow up like he was in other games. And many of that too, as we showed on Chalk Talk, are the safeties hammering down and taking away that underneath with Jayden Reed. And that's what's opening things up, like for the Christian Watson deep bomb and some other things, even in the flat, right? When they're putting all of that attention on those crossers to take away Jayden Reed, that's going to open up the flats and that's going to open up the shots, right? Because you got these guys that are really kind of hammering down with the Robin and things like that, like the cover one robber, and then putting emphasis on bracket covering, kind of like how we treated Stephon Diggs there last week. How you're showing two high safeties, although you're in cover one man, it should be cover one robber, but the robber isn't really playing true robber mid hook zone. He's actually bracket covering Stephon Diggs coming across the field, those type of things. So with that, that's the end of hour one. For those of you on the pod, we'll see you on the other side for hour two. We appreciate you.